Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev, yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now in the public domain, which means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch. People from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find. Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you're well and lovely to have you here. Just having a conversation in chat with Wayward Bard about the new status on lurkers here on Twitch. It's kind of new. They've been kind of doing it anyway. It's just they're actually talking more about it now. And Dan Clancy was recorded in a public interview online stating that this is their current policy. If you are someone who watches and uses a VPN or an ad blocker, then your viewership counts. If you are actively viewing, your viewership does count, except for during ad breaks and the 5 minutes either side of it. So if you are watching someone to try and be supportive of them and you're not subscribed to them, and that you're hoping that they get some ad revenue, if you are not seeing the ads, if they are not being served to you, then no, your viewership won't count as a way of supporting them. I'm not saying you need to actually do that for me. I'm just wanting people to be informed so that they know how it is. Yes, Goriki is covering in a few days for his Modiversary. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off these two guys over here first, and I'm going to pull up his Modiversary poster. So Goriki, do you want to tell us anything more about it in chat before I ramble? I just need to sort this out first. That one there. Turn that one off and then go back to normal mode instead of studio. I'm so glad I get how to use, for tinkering with things, how to use studio mode. I don't use it properly, where you set things up on one side of your screen in studio mode and then push them through to live screen. I mainly use it for tinkering with another scene or something like that. Goriki's saying it's going to cover some old info, some changes, and some new info, all in regards to moderation, bots, etc. Exactly. So here you go. Here is his poster for his birthday stream, which is on March the 31st, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are in the States, you will know exactly how to calculate that. I'm trying to read it. Depends on my work schedule, unknown at this time. Sorry, I'm trying to read through the bottom of my glasses. I can't actually get the zoning right. So he will be talking about all sorts of very, very useful things to know about regarding stream safety, how to stop bots proliferating in a channel, all sorts of things like that. There have been some changes to some aspects of that. My brain is going blank. So he will be introducing that sort of information, the stuff that is new, as well as reiterating the things that he's covered previously. If you are not able to make it, I do strongly recommend you watch the ModLearn videos. There are three of them. The one that I'm in, which is I think the second one, my voice has a modifier on it because I didn't realize that it was doing that. Because I don't listen to myself when I'm streaming, even if I'm listening to everybody else. Because the stream delay really puts me off. I find it hard enough to think anyway. Tackling the myth of just because it's true/false, even just 2 years ago, doesn't mean that it still holds. Yes, that is a really big factor of it. So things like watching more than 2 Twitch channels at the same time. If you have your browser so it doesn't pause the one that's not given priority, if you have it so it doesn't pause, you can actually still watch 2 Twitch channels at the same time and have your viewership count, but no more than 2. No more than 2. Pick is covering subtitles, yeah. Let's just see if I can resize it slightly. I just want to keep it so that people can actually see the info on the picture. There you go. So that's on the 31st, which for me will be the 1st because I'm on the other side of the date line from him. I have not put the correct time in Discord. It is this is up in my Discord server in the announcements channel. If you are writing time in Discord, I found out how to do it. You type @ not hash or exclamation at, and then time, and then you put what it is in your time that you want to do it as, or the date. I've not actually tried it since I found out the right way to do it, but it means that anyone else in the Discord server can see it corrected for their time zone, unless they're using a VPN. So please join Goriki for that. I will be there for part of it, and I will be getting ready to stream for the other part of it. Just looking at my little calendar here. So yeah, that is 2 days from now, and it starts before my stream time, but I will be getting ready to stream, and I will be streaming, I think, during the last part of it, but I'm not sure. Also, he will be doing some old superhero movies or TV series. They are always excellent. Wayward Bard saying, oh, I have no problem on my Sundays. I'm sitting in this office for 12 hours. I can definitely peek in every 15 to 30 minutes. Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that, Wayward Bard. Now, in addition to Goriki's anniversary of his moderating for people, and it's a big one. 10 years, is it? Because I'm pretty sure it was 9 years last time. Oh, and yeah, hi, Jono, too. Sorry about that. I did actually see you there, but I was going to say something, but I didn't. Oh, I was in the middle of saying something, and I forgot that I was going to say hello to you. Great to see you here, Jono. No, the parcel hasn't arrived yet. In addition to Goriki's anniversary, we also have, hang on, I need to, not that, this here. There you go. Our Commutation has his 5th anniversary. There you go. And I don't have a date for it yet, but I'm doing something for my anniversary of my first stream. So instead of doing what I've done other years, because every year it's different for me, I'm going to, if it's arrived, be starting to make this little bookshop model. So I'll be doing that as a crafting stream. There you go. That's how that lot works. Carry on, hugs. Thanks, Goriki. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So that's what's coming up. But please see if you can make it for Goriki's stream, which will be for most of you on Tuesday, and for me it will be on Wednesday. Me and Jonathan, it'll be Wednesday. But it's a little bit early in the day than what this is now. Don't ask me, because daylight savings changes and stuff. We haven't had ours change back to regular time yet. We're still on daylight time, but I think our change is coming up in a little while. Is it at Easter or is it after that? I don't know. My phone usually auto corrects itself. Yes, I am not wearing my loadable shirt today. It is too hot here, and we just had a sudden downpour. But here you go, just to prove that I still have it. I haven't got rid of it. Loadable shirt, get yours at jev.nz. Don't forget 3 V's. Right, there we go. How about we have a tips video? That sounds like a good idea. Who are we going to get telling us all about it today? I don't know. Let's see. There you go. And yes, I do put up the credit for the audio, the music on that video because it is free to be used. You have permission to use it once you have they like to know that you're going to use it. They just want to have credit given by Wintergarten, Gaten, Gatan. I can't remember. So they have made stuff available for people to use for this sort of thing, if you want. So there you go. I think that's another one of my phrases, isn't it? There you go. I'm feeling like I need to have a phrase list somewhere. Right, today we are reading more of Tom Swift and his underwater overwater vessel, also known as Tom Swift and his submarine boat. Yes, it seems redundant, but in the old days, that's what they called them, submarine boats, not submarines. No, I know, submarine, the word doesn't define what it is, says PJ, just tells you where it is. So I am getting out my water bottles. I have my Shane bottle. No, it has not been topped up since last time. I'll just get my drink out of the way. I also have my bottle that says Lad. I'll just get something off the bottom of it, something sticky. Wrapper of something from a while ago. And the other key word that we've got here should be craft. Yes, I have my craft bottle here as well. I can get my giant water bottle out of the way now, since we have access to plenty of water for today's stream. And if I need to, I can always top them up. So there we go. I've got my water bottles ready. Have you? That's the key point. Right. So I have a drink today, a totally not sponsored by and yet GVNZ drink. I can tell you the flavour. I just have to look at it where you can't see it. Slide the sleeve up. The sleeve, cardboard. Strawberry Crush. It's one made by V, which is a New Zealand company. Well, was a New Zealand company. I don't know if it still is. And if anyone knows how to get drinks companies to sponsor you, please send me a message so I know how to approach them about it. Because I think they should be sponsoring us. Since I have 3 Vs, that would be good. Even if they don't provide anything monetary, just providing goods would be lovely. It would be very cool. I'm just going to move that and move the sign over. See, Tom Swift. Yes, I've got some sneakers, mini sneakers. They're actually air fresheners. I don't have the air freshener felt with oils in them. You're meant to hang them from your windows or something like that in your car, but I thought they were quite cute. So I don't have the smells get to me. I don't do that. When you tend to be someone who gets migraines really easily, you tend to be a lot more cautious around having an overload of fragrances around you. I used to wear perfume, not anymore. Deodorants that have strong fragrances, no. Creams and lotions and potions and things like that have strong smells to them, definitely not. One of the worst for me is artificial vanilla. It is very, very common in lots of things. For some reason, people think that something that smells of fake vanilla helps the place feel clean and fresh. No, it doesn't. It smells like a migraine. 3 migraines last week. Oh no, Jonathan, that's terrible. Oh, that's horrible, horrid indeed. One of the things I have finally figured out with my migraines, often when I get one, I'll get a migraine. I'll get over that during that day, taking the appropriate meds and things like that, getting the rest, getting the sleep, staying really well hydrated. And then I will have a day without any pain, except I'll still be quite fuzzy in it's really hard to think clearly and plan things and all that sort of stuff. I feel very sluggish and slow. And then sometimes I would have what I thought was just a headache after that. And I thought it was just kind of like a reaction to me feeling overwhelmed. I actually realized It's actually a 3-day migraine, and I have the because a migraine isn't just the pain, it's actually everything else that goes on with it too. So you have all of the pre-pain symptoms that then build up, and then you get quite an intense pain section usually. And I was having it, so it then drops down. Thankfully, my meds help with that. And then I would have a smaller peak of pain on the 3rd day after that, and then it would ease off. So if I'm a little bit more kind to myself, I'm getting less of those tail end pain days, which is good. But yeah, it took me a while to actually realize it's a multi-day thing for me rather than being a migraine day and a normal headache day. So yeah, I will be good to myself as long as you're good to yourself too, okay? And do consider the fact that it may actually be, rather than 3 migraines, it might be 2 migraines plus an extra day on one of those. Not saying it is, just be aware of the possibility that it can actually be that your migraines are longer than you thought. And then, yes, for me, always there's at least a day afterwards where I have the weird, my perception of distance from myself to things is usually a bit off. It's not uncommon to bump into things, all sorts of stuff like that. He says that Jonathan is a glittering wise-eyed firefly. Lovely. And I was so excited when we finally got to see actual fireflies when we were over in Europe in 2019. We had the van, we'd parked off the side of the road in a little patch of forest, and there were some trees just outside the van door, a sliding door on the side of the van, and I was busy doing something inside, and I just caught this flash of something out of the corner of my eye. I turned around, and yeah, there were fireflies in the bushes. It was wonderful. Lovely to see them at last. I may have seen them when I was a kid in North America, in Canada specifically, but I don't remember that. I remember Northern Lights, but I don't remember fireflies. And Goriki also says that Wayward Bard is a delicious butterfly. A delicious puppy, not butterfly. Delicious puppy. Easter? Do we have chocolate puppies for Easter? I don't know. And Goriki says that I am a bright butterfly. Yes, not quite so bright today. It's my surroundings instead. Feeling blah a day before is always a red flag for me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And instead of going, oh, it's just one of those days, and you carry on as you get, it's life experience. As you get more life experience, you start to pay a little bit, usually, a little bit more attention and go, I'm just going to have to be careful. I think I might be having a migraine tomorrow. Sadly. I am so glad I don't get chronic migraine, though. That's where people have them almost full time. It's over a certain number of days in a month on a regular basis. And everyone I know of who has them, it's basically you have a migraine almost all the time, because they go from one to another, and it's not great. And the sort of pain relief that I take doesn't do a thing for it, sadly. So yeah, just checking to see if there was anything there that I forgot to read out for you guys, in case anyone is listening but not watching. Which is, if you haven't come across my channel before, if you're watching this as a VOD or anything like that, and you wonder why I read out chat even when it's on screen here, and if it's a VOD you can still see chat, because otherwise, yeah, because they don't last very long on my channel. It's because not everybody is actually reading chat. A lot of people are working or doing other things, and I want to enable people to still be involved by knowing what's going on in the chit chat, because what's going on in chat is half of what everyone's here for. It's not just me reading, because if everyone was here just for me reading, we would all go away before I actually got started, including me. I actually enjoy the chit chat. It's lovely having you guys all joining in. LOL, just had a call from a customer illustrating Jeff's point. Lovely, thank you. Good to hear. So yeah, Jonathan is in the same time zone as me. New Zealand actually has 2 time zones. We have the main part of New Zealand, is UTC plus 12, except in summer it's plus 13. But we also have Chatham Islands time because there's a little cluster of islands out to the east of New Zealand. It's a long way away and it's very isolated and it's very exposed to bad weather, and they're 45 minutes ahead of us. But Jonathan is not in the Chatham Islands. He is actually in a part of New Zealand that is, I'm trying to move my hand the right way, is south of me. I'm up here in the top half of the North Island, and I think he's down in the middle of the South Island somewhere, if he's where I remember him being. So there you go, folks. We are both in the same time zone. So that means he's at work and I work from home. Thank you. So yeah, if anyone knows how to approach V and get them to provide drinks for stream, I can even, if they send me a giant sticker, I can even move my little fridge from downstairs upstairs and put a giant V sticker on it and have it in the background if that's a requirement. Or if they want to provide a drinks fridge, that's cool too. Anyway, so just joking, everybody. Don't worry about that. Let's get on with reading. Those of you who aren't in New Zealand, V is an energy drink, and it's one that we came up with, and it's one of the reasons why Red Bull, when it was first released in New Zealand, had to do a lot more hard work advertising to really take off well in the market, because V was so strong already. We have that with other services and things like that have had a hard time getting started in New Zealand just because we had already done our own version. In the old days of eBay doing really well overseas, it wasn't initially doing really well in New Zealand because we already had Trade Me, which is New Zealand equivalent of it. And it has been around for a while, and it is fairly well trusted. It has a rating system and everything. We don't have, you can format your listings any way you want so that people can be emotionally influenced because you have cute fonts in your listings. And we also don't have a listing which has a bunch of other listings in the middle of it from somewhere else because they think you want it and then more information about it and can't find where the information is for the person that you want to see, or click on this to see more, or anything else like that. It's actually a cleaner setup and a lot harder to get lost on when you're trying to find stuff. And so because of that, eBay took a long time before it actually really started to take off in New Zealand. We still have a preference to use for an online auction site. New Zealanders still prefer to use Trade Me because it's based in New Zealand. You can get stuff from people who are overseas, but they have to have New Zealand banking if they are going to sell in New Zealand. They are not allowed to sell in New Zealand if you, the buyer, has to send your payment offshore. You have to get it. You have to be able to pay it into a bank in New Zealand. Oh, thank you, Jonathan. That's excellent. Sent through V contact details for sponsorship on Discord. Excellent. I'll see what I can do. And if anyone wants to help me craft a letter for that, then that's cool too. So, yeah, it's one of those things. When you're as isolated as we are in New Zealand, especially because we didn't used to have the internet as such a strong thing, it means that we would see or hear of stuff overseas that was not easily accessible for us over here. And so we would get things established that was our equivalent. And then eventually those other services would be a lot more accessible in New Zealand, and people would actually start to use them a lot more. But if the local competition is too good, you're not going to do well if you're trying to launch something from overseas in New Zealand. You have to actually understand and accept our market instead of trying to change us. Most small population countries don't like being told they have to change for a big provider if the big provider is foreign and is saying you have to do it our way because we're more important than you. Small countries will go yeah and find their own way of doing it, just because we are human beings. We like to be recognized as us, and everybody I think is like that in some way or another. Right, so there you go.
let's read some Tom Swift and his underwater overwater vessel, otherwise known as Tom Swift and his submarine boat. And have you been learning more about submarines aside from listening to the story? I have, kind of. The idea of submarines has been around a very, very long time. I mean, most of us have seen Leonardo da Vinci's pictures of Leonardo da Vinci's drawings for his submarine, the Turtle, I think it was called. This conical shaped thing. Caution, Shane will be busy tonight. Thank you for the warning. Now, admittedly, this is only half full, just over half full, because I have not been topping these bottles up since we started this book, because I wanted to see how it would go. But if it runs out, I will top it up. I do have access to it handy. Leonardo DiCaprio, yes. So the idea of submarines has been around a very long time, because we as humans, we want to get beyond just where our current physical limitations let us get to. It's like we want to fly, we want to also be able to go underwater. You could put a bit of tape with the date, like kids with their height. Pen, tape, my lovely tape dispenser. I got this ages ago it was discounted because it was end of line. But I love it because it's got that luster finish. It's got purples and greens and blues in the finish. And I'd forgotten that I had it because I hadn't started using it. And then one day I was doing some tidying and I thought, ooh, that's a good idea. Let's use that. So I'm going to put this on the side here and put a line on that piece of tape with the date. The deep sea is vastly unexplored. It is. It's just so, it's so much more vast. And because it's not where people live, corporations think that means we can loot it. We can get rich off stuff we find there. Unfortunately, they don't realize how much the air we breathe is directly impacted by the health of the oceans. And that includes them dredging the bottom of it and wrecking it. Did you know that ozone, the ozone hole and the hole in the ozone layer, ozone is replenished by shellfish growing their shells in the intertidal zones of shores of the ocean? Did you know? It's one of those things you don't realize just how impactful the ocean is. But if you think about the fact that the ocean is a vastly larger area on the surface of the earth than anything else, it shouldn't surprise us. Get a globe, hold it at arm's length from you, or put yourself at arm's length from it, and turn it until you are looking at the center of the Pacific Ocean. Don't worry about lines, but turn it so you're looking at the center of the Pacific Ocean and see how little land you can see. It is enormous. So the date today is it's up here, 30th of March for me. There you go. 30th of March. That's the water level. I'm not holding it level. Now I'm holding it level. Doesn't look like I'm holding it level. I'm holding it level this way, maybe not that way. I should probably do that on the others too. Let's put a little bit of tape and just put a line even if I don't do the writing. Not that we have to, but just if we're going to be like this about it. And then we can carry on with the reading. Oh, craft. That's right, craft hadn't really got going yet, had it? I do think we missed a few on one of the days for craft, but that's okay. Stop wiggling. Trying to draw a straight line and it goes like this. So you try to straighten it and then it gets thicker and thicker. Oxygen's for losers. Yeah, fine. Just hold your breath for long enough until we get some more Right, let's carry on. Chapter 13, Off for the Treasure. But I will read the last paragraph of the previous chapter. "Oh, for one breath of fresh air," cried Mr. Damon, who seemed to suffer more than any of the others. Grim death was hovering around them, imprisoned as they were on the ocean's bed, over a mile from the surface. Because they had gone down in their test, their sea trials. And, yeah. On the ocean bed, oh, for a breath of air. Okay, oh, for a breath of air is that chapter. I thought it was going to be on the ocean bed. Anyway, so they're a mile down. That's quite deep. In reality, if you're going to be doing technology like this, you will test and test and test and test in its own environment that it is going to be used in. You won't just go out with everybody in it and go really deep on your first sea trial. Because as anyone to do with the sea knows, that is asking for trouble. So, anyway, we're going to get on with this. Off for treasure, off for the treasure. So they're stuck down at the bottom and they've got to figure their way out. And Tom had started undoing something. Having a go at something with a spanner, I think. Suddenly, oh, that's right, I read the beginning of this chapter, just the first sentence at the end of Friday's read. Off for the treasure. Suddenly Tom, after a moment's pause, seized a wrench and began loosening some nuts. I would call it a spanner. They call it a wrench. "What are you doing?" asked his father faintly, for he was being weakened by the vitiated atmosphere. I'm guessing that means depleted of oxygen. "I'm going to take this valve apart," replied his son. "We haven't looked there for the trouble. Maybe it's out of order." He attacked the valve with energy, but his hands soon lagged. The lack of oxygen was telling on him. He could no longer work quickly. "I'll help," murmured Mr. Sharp thickly. He took a wrench, but no sooner had he loosened one nut than he toppled over. "I'm all in," he murmured feebly. "Is he dead?" cried Mr. Damon, himself gasping. "No, only fainted, but he soon will be dead, and so will all of us if we don't get fresh air," remarked Captain Weston. "Lie down on the floor, everyone. There's a little fairly good air there. It's heavier than the air we've breathed, and we can exist on it for a little longer. Poor Sharp was so used to breathing the rarefied air of high altitudes that he can't stand this heavy atmosphere." Mr. Damon was gasping worse than ever, and so was Mr. Swift. The balloonist lay in an inert heap on the floor, with Captain Weston trying to force a few drops of stimulant down his throat. Never try to put something inside somebody who is unconscious or asleep. Anywhere, okay? But first aid wise, don't try to give them brandy or anything to stimulate them to wakefulness. But yeah, anything. If the person can't respond to you, don't put anything inside them in any way whatsoever. They should open a window, says Coastal. Yeah, a mile underwater in the submarine. Where do we get to? With a fierce determination in his heart, but with fingers that almost refused to do his bidding, Tom once more sought to open the big valve. He felt sure the trouble was located there, as they had tried to locate it in every other place without avail. "I'll help," said Mr. Jackson in a whisper. He, too, was hardly able to move. More and more devoid of oxygen grew the air. It gave Tom a sense as if his head was filled and ready to burst with every breath he drew. Still he struggled to loosen the nuts. There were but 4 more now, and he took off 3 while Mr. Jackson removed 1. The young inventor lifted off the valve cover, though it felt like a ton weight to him. He gave a glance inside. "Here's the trouble," he murmured. "The valve's clogged. No wonder it wouldn't work. The pumps couldn't force the water out." It was the work of only a minute to adjust the valve. Then Tom and the engineer managed to get the cover back on. How they inserted the bolts and screwed the nuts in place they never could remember clearly afterward, but they managed it somehow with shaking, trembling hands and eyes that grew more and more dim. "Now, "Start the pumps," cried Tom faintly. "The tanks will be emptied and we can get to the surface." Mr. Sharp was still unconscious, nor was Mr. Swift able to help. He lay with his eyes closed. Garrett Jackson, however, managed to crawl to the engine room, and soon the clank of machinery told Tom that the pumps were in motion. The lad staggered to the pilot house and threw the levers over. An instant later there was the hissing of water as it rushed from the ballast tanks. The submarine shivered as though disliking to leave the bottom of the sea, and then slowly rose. As the pumps worked more rapidly and the sea was sent from the tank in great volumes, the boat fairly shot to the surface. Tom was ready to open the conning tower and let in the fresh air as soon as the top was above the surface. With a bound, the Advance reached the top. Tom frantically worked the worm gear that opened the tower. In rushed the fresh, life-giving air, and the treasure hunters filled their lungs with it. And it was only just in time, for Mr. Sharp was almost gone. He quickly revived, as did the others, when they could breathe as much as they wished of the glorious oxygen. "That was a close call," commented Mr. Swift. "We'll not go below again until I've provided for all emergencies. I should have seen to the air tanks and the expanding one before going below. We'll sail home on the surface now." Oh my goodness. Yeah. Book for less scientifically minded younger people, so therefore they're not going to see the just slight discrepancies in what people are capable of along the way. The submarine was put about and headed for her dock. On the way she passed a small steamer, and the passengers looked down in wonder at the strange craft. When the Advance reached the secluded creek where she had been launched, her passengers had fully recovered from their terrible experience, though the nerves of Mr. Swift and Mr. Damon were not at ease for some days thereafter. In actual fact, they should all have bad headaches. Oxygen deprivation does that to you. "I should never have made a submerged test without making sure we had a reserve supply of air," remarked the aged inventor. "That's for sure." Yeah, definitely don't make a submerged test without a reserve supply of air already active and available. Aged. I'm also going to have a drink. It's very sweet, Jonathan. It's probably sweetener, but the Strawberry Crush V is very sweet flavored. And probably more noticeable because it's not as tart, not as sour as a lot of other energy drinks are. Right. Nose, itchy. We've read that. "I will not be caught that way again," said Mr. Swift. "But I can't understand how the pump valve got out of order." "Maybe someone tampered with it," suggested Mr. Damon. "Could Andy Foger, any of the Happy Harry gang, or the rival gold seekers have done it?" "I hardly think so," answered Tom. "The place has been too carefully guarded since Berg and Andy once sneaked in. I think it was just an accident, but I have thought of a plan whereby such accidents can be avoided in the future. It needs a simple device." "Better patent it," suggested Mr. Sharp with a smile. "Maybe I will," replied the young inventor, "but not now. We haven't time, if we intend to get fitted out for our trip." "No, I should say the sooner we started the better," remarked Captain Weston. "That is, if you don't mind me speaking about it," he added gently, and the others smiled, for his diffident comments were only a matter of habit. The first act of the adventurers, after tying the submarine at the dock, was to proceed with the loading of the food and supplies. Tom and Mr. Damon looked to this, while Mr. Swift and Mr. Sharp made some necessary changes to the machinery. The next day the young inventor attached his device to the pump valve, and the loading of the craft was continued. All was in readiness for the gold-seeking expedition a week later. Captain Weston had carefully charted the route they were to follow, and it was decided to move along on the surface for the first day, so as to get well out to sea before submerging the craft. Then it would sink below the surface and run along under the water until the wreck was reached. Pardon me. Rising at times as needed to renew the air supply. With sufficient stores and provisions aboard to last several months if necessary, this submarine is a lot bigger inside than the modern ones are for the overall size of it. Though they did not expect to be gone for more than 60 days at most, the adventurers arose early one morning and went down to the dock. Mr. Jackson was not to accompany them. He did not care about a submarine trip, he said, and Mr. Swift desired him to remain at the seaside cottage and guard the shops, the workshops, which contained much valuable machinery. The airship was also left there. "Well, are we all ready?" asked Mr. Swift of the little party of gold seekers, as they were about to enter the conning tower hatchway of the submarine. "All ready, Dad," responded his son. "Then let's get aboard," proposed Captain Weston. "But first, let me take an observation." He swept the horizon. Captain Weston's the guy with the telescope. He swept the horizon with his telescope, and Tom noted that the sailor kept it fixed on one particular spot for some time. "Did you see anything?" asked the lad. "Well, there is a boat lying off there," was the answer, "and someone is observing us through a glass telescope. But I don't believe it matters. Probably they're only trying to see what sort of an odd fish we are." Yeah. Definitely this. "All aboard then," ordered Mr. Swift, and they went into the submarine. Tom and his father, with Captain Weston, remained in the conning tower. The signal was given. The electricity flowed into the forward and aft plates, and the Advance shot ahead on the surface. I'm not even going to try and wrap my head around how using a magnet, a set of effectively magnetized plates, electromagnet, in water is driving them. We'll just accept that that's how it is for the story. My disbelief is suspended regarding that, I've decided. The sailor raised his telescope once more and peered through a window in the tower. He uttered an exclamation. "What's the matter?" asked Tom. "That other ship, a small steamer, is weighing anchor and seems to be heading this way," was the reply. "Maybe it's someone hired by Berg to follow us and trace our movements," suggested Tom. "If it is, we'll fool them," added his father. "Just keep an eye on them, Captain, and I think we can show them a trick or two in a few minutes." Faster shot the Advance through the water. She had started on her way to get the gold from the sunken wreck, but already enemies were on the trail of the adventurers, for the ship the sailor had noticed was steaming after them. A little bit obvious, though, isn't it? Chapter 14. In the diving suits. Are these another invention? If so, have they been tested? How thoroughly have they been tested? Have they been tested to breaking point, and have you fixed those issues and made a new set based on the fixes and tested those? I don't know. In the diving suits is the name of the chapter. There was no doubt that the steamer was coming after the submarine. I think Ocean Gate read this book and took notes. I think there's a lot of this sort of things that people grew up reading. Older people grew up reading and then actually started to either do their own adult version as books, not based on this, but they had these little niggling ideas in their mind, or people who do TV series and movies, script writers. You get inspired by so many different things. You get ideas from so many different things, and you just log them away internally or write them down, and they come out at some later stage in your life where you actually put the time into developing them. It's quite intriguing seeing how that actually works. Was this before or after 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Jules Verne, I think, was before this. Because, actually, no, that's a good point. Someone can look it up. Jules Verne, 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's on Wikipedia, I know that. Right, I'm going to leave you to it. There was no doubt that the steamer was coming after the submarine. They've assumed that it's actually someone who's against them. The story has told us that too, but we don't know. It may not be. It may actually be someone relevant in some other way. Several observations Captain Weston made confirmed this, and he reported the fact to Mr. Swift. Well, we'll change our plans then, said the inventor. Instead of sailing on the surface, we'll go below, but first let them get near so they may have the benefit of seeing what we do. Tom, go below, please, and tell Mr. Sharp to get everything in readiness for a quick descent. So they don't yet have a speaking tube to relay messages directly from where they are to the engine room or the other control centre in the vessel. That one is a problem. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is 1870. Ah, yes. We'll slow up a bit now, let them get nearer to us. The speed of the submarine was reduced, and in a short time the strange steamer had overhauled her, coming to within hailing distance. Strange? Is this another invention? Mr. Swift signalled for the machinery to stop, and the submarine came to a halt on the surface. Bobbing about like a half-submerged bottle, the inventor opened a bullseye in the tower and called to the man on the bridge of the steamer. Opened a bullseye on the tower. Is that like a loud hailer? I don't know. What are you following us for? Following you? Repeated the man, for the strange vessel had also come to a stop. We're not following you. It looks like it, replied Mr. Swift. You'd better give it up. I guess the waters are free, was the quick retort. We'll follow you if we like. Will you? Then come on, cried the inventor as he quickly closed the heavy glass window and pulled a lever. Oh, bullseye glass. Bullseye glass is the glass that's from the centre of when they used to make modern glass. You pour glass onto a surface. Sometimes it's onto a metal plate that's already hot, and it gives it a flat surface. It can also be onto a hot liquid that it settles across the top of to give an even level. But before they came up with that way of doing it, they used to do it by blowing glass and then opening it out into a really wide disc as part of the glass blowing process, and then cutting all those pieces, which is why the old houses used to have small panes, and before that the little tiny diamonds, because you couldn't get big pieces that you could still see through easily and that were strong enough. Modern glass is much stronger, but you'd also have the ripple from the thicknesses as it was being spread outwards, and the glass blower and the team of other people who work with them were trying to get it even in thickness. And when you get to the end of cutting those pieces of glass down to the sizes you need, you're usually left with the bit that's around where the actual blowing tube was. It's got rings around it, and then because it's thicker than normal, because the others, it gets thinner and thinner as it goes out towards the edges, except for right at the edge it's slightly thicker. And so you have these pieces of glass which are otherwise useless. So they were often used. Traditionally, you see pictures of them as a feature pane, occasional random ones, in shop fronts, like lolly shops in England, sweet stores, where you have all those rectangular panes that are about this big, and you get the occasional one of these bullseyes. So that's what he's talking about. He opened up the bullseye and had called across to them, because they did tell us at the beginning that the windows were bullseye glass. Or they referenced it somehow that actually made us realise that. But I forgot that I was going to tell you that that's what bullseye glass is. It's because they're those round they have the ripples that go round the centre point, which is a really thick chunk of glass. And all of that piece is a lot thicker than normal. So it means that you actually have something that can handle a lot more pressure than a normal piece of glass would. So that's what they were talking about, the bullseye. Right, let's carry on. I just wanted to tell you that your left turn signal has been on for 3 countries. Yes. Yeah, good to see you again, Wayward Bard. That's great. Right, let's carry on. Will you then come on? Cried the inventor as he quickly closed the heavy glass window and pulled a lever. An instant later the submarine began to sink, and Mr. Swift could not help laughing as, just before the tower went under water, he had a glimpse of the astonished face of the man on the bridge. Let's just hope that this is not a steamer that can also go underwater. That's just a submarine that's disguised as a steamer. The latter had evidently not expected such a move as that. Lower and lower in the water went the craft until it was about 200 feet below the surface. Then Mr. Swift left the conning tower, descended to the main part of the ship, and asked Tom and Captain Weston to take charge of the pilot house. "Send her ahead, Tom," his father said. "That fellow up above is rubbing his eyes yet, wondering where we are, I suppose." Forward shot the Advance, underwater, the powerful electric plates pulling and pushing her on the way to secure the sunken gold. All that morning a fairly moderate rate of speed was maintained, as it was thought best not to run the new machinery too fast. Give it some running in time. Very good idea. Dinner was eaten. Once again, this is all stuff that should have been done in sea trials. They should have been getting everything fully functioning and fully run in before they do anything with distance. Don't forget that this era, submarines were being used for coastal work. They were not used for crossing large oceans or going large distances. Dinner was eaten about a quarter of a mile below the surface, but no one inside the submarine would ever have known it. Electric lights made the place as brilliant as could be desired, and the food, which Tom and Mr. Damon prepared, was equal to any that could have been served on land. After the meal, they opened the shutters over the windows in the sides of the craft and looked at the myriads of fish swimming past as the creatures were disclosed in the glare of the searchlight. That night they were several hundred miles on their journey, for the craft was speedy, and leaving Tom and Captain Weston to take the first watch, the others went to bed. "Bless my soul, but it does seem odd, though, to be going to bed underwater like a fish," remarked Mr. Damon. "If my wife knew this, she would worry to death. She thinks I'm off automobiling, but this isn't half as dangerous as riding in a car, as that's always getting out of order. A submarine for mine every time." He thinks that there's not much can go wrong. Oh dear, that sounds like foreshadowing. Do they have any diagrams of the sub's layout? No, unfortunately they don't. I really wanted to find some, but I couldn't. Although if you find some, do share them with us. "Wait till we get to the end of this trip," advised Tom. "I guess you'll find almost as many things can happen in a submarine as can in an auto." And future events were to prove the young inventor to be right. Yes, as expected. Everything worked well that night, and the ship made good progress. They rose to the surface the next morning to make sure of their position and to get fresh air, though they did not really need the latter, as the reserve supply had not been drawn on and was sufficient for several days, now that the oxygen machine had been put in running order. On the second day, the ship was sent to the bottom and halted there, as Mr. Swift wished to try the new diving suits. You get in your diving suit and you descend from the pier in your creek, and you have a rope attached to your diving suit, and if for some reason you get stuck, you yank on the rope and the people up on the pier above you pull you out of the water. You don't test it when you're miles underwater in the ocean. Sure, why not, says Coleslaw. No, exactly. Brick wall. I'm going to leave it over here for anyone who wants to use it. Let's not worry about the Tom Swift sign for now. There's your brick wall in case you need it. Oh my goodness. But teenage boys, I guess, they might be knowledgeable about their plot armor. Oh my goodness. Mr. Swift wished to try the new diving suits. These were made of a new, light but very strong metal to withstand the pressure of a great depth. Titanium? Maybe? I don't know. A new, light but very strong. How tested is this metal? Is it metal that gets brittle under certain conditions. What does pressure do to this metal when it's in block form, when it's in sheet form? Is it extruded? Has it been stretched out? Is it hammered to get its form, like cast versus wrought? That does different things to iron. If you have cast iron and if you have wrought iron, they have different strength properties, hugely different strength properties. And you need to use the sort that's appropriate for how it was made compared with what you want to do with it. Otherwise, you get breakages, huge, major breakages, or you get things distorting. So a new, light, but very strong metal. So let's just cast aside our disbelief for now and go, okay, let's get on with it. There's the brick wall in case you need it. Tom, Mr. Sharp, and Captain Weston donned the suits, the others agreeing to wait until they saw how the first trial resulted. How are they going to rescue them if they need to? Then, too, it was necessary for someone acquainted with the machinery to remain in the ship to operate the door and water chamber, that's the airlock, through which the divers had to pass to get out. The usual plan, with some changes, was followed in letting the three out of the boat and onto the bottom of the sea. They entered a chamber in the side of the submarine. Water was gradually admitted until it equalled in pressure that outside it. And then an outer door was opened by means of levers, and they could step out. It was a curious sensation to Tom and the others to feel that they were actually walking along the bed of the ocean. All around them was the water, and as they turned on the small electric lights in their helmets, which lights were fed by storage batteries fastened to the diving suits, they saw the fish, big and little, swarm up to them, doubtless astonished at the odd creatures which had entered their domain. On the sand of the bottom and in and out among the shells and rocks crawled great spider crabs, big eels and other odd creatures seldom seen on the surface of the water. The three divers found no difficulty in breathing, as there were air tanks fastened to their shoulders and a constant supply of oxygen was fed through the pipes into the helmets. The pressure of water did not bother them, and after the first sensation, Tom began to enjoy the novelty of it. At first, the inability to speak to his companions seemed odd, but he soon got so he could make signs and motions and be understood. They walked about for some time, and once the lad came upon a part of the wrecked vessel buried deep in the sand. There was no telling what ship it was, nor how long it had been there, and after silently viewing it, they continued on. Don't go too far, guys. I do hope they're leaving a rope, trailing a rope behind them to find their way back. It was great, were the first words Tom uttered when he and the others were once more inside the submarine and had removed the suits. If we can only walk around the wreck of the Boldero that way, we'll have all the gold out of her in no time. There are no lifelines nor air hose to bother with in these diving suits. They certainly are a success, conceded Mr. Sharp. Bless my top knot, cried Mr. Damon. I'll try it next time. I've always wanted to be a diver, and now I have the chance. Yes, because diving and dive suits have been in use for a long time. Not self-contained breathing, underwater breathing apparatus has not been around so long. Using something with air supplied through a hose has. Although they haven't touched on things like bends and the toxicity of oxygen once you get over a certain depth. We'll finish the chapter and then we can make comment if we need to. Oh, I should have put that image up for you. Sorry. That's odd. Gariki item not found. You can see all items here. Streamelements.com store. I don't know why it brought that up. Something to investigate. I'll carry on the chapter. We're nearly there. We'll have to be no. I jumped a bit. I've always wanted to be a diver, and now I have the chance, said Mr. Damon. The trip was resumed after the diving chamber had been closed, and on the third day, Captain Weston announced, after a look at his chart, that they were nearing the Bahama Islands. They've gone a very long way. That's a number of 100 miles from New York, or New Jersey, I should say. We'll have to be careful not to run into any of the small keys, he said, that being the name for the many little points of land, hardly large enough to be dignified by the name of island. We must keep a constant lookout. And they spell it the American way, not the Bahamian way, which is K-E-Y. And if you want to know, in the Bahamas they spell it C-A-Y, I think. Is that how they spell it? Koriki, you know. I can't remember. Shame, hardly dignified to be called an island. Indeed. Yeah, we do need to drink the shame bottle for that. In the Bahamas you can buy keys, and that some of them are a lot bigger than just a small patch of sand. They are big enough to call an island. Pluto is also a planet, says Coleslaw. Yes, I agree with you. If it was big enough to be noticed and named back then, it should be still recognised as a planet. Right. Some keys are quite large, but there are keys barely large enough for a house and a dock, yes. And some keys are just a little patch of sand or coral with a couple of tufts of something growing on top. So, yeah, there's a huge range. I mean, they've got keys in Florida, but they spell them K-E-Y-S instead of C-A-Y-S. Glorified sandbar. Yes, some of them are a glorified sandbar. Some of them are not. Some of them actually are proper islands. They use key as a name, as a term for different islands in the Bahamas. There's a lot of islands in the Bahamas, by the way. Go and have a look on a map. And I'll look at the rest of chat, which I missed before, shortly. We'll have to be careful not to run into any of the small keys, he said, that being the name for the many little points of land hardly large enough to be dignified by the name of island, which I have drunk the shame bottle for. We must keep a constant lookout. Fortune favoured them, though once, when Tom was steering, he narrowly avoided ramming a coral reef with the submarine. The searchlight showed it to him just in time, and he sheered off with a thumping in his heart. She had suddenly changed direction. The searchlight showed it to him just... How did he not see it? Heading home from work. See you later. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Wayward Bard. Great to have you here. Carry on, and safe travels on your way home. The course was changed from south to east so as to get ready to swing out of the way of the big shoulder of South America, where Brazil takes up so much room, and as they went further and further toward the equator, they noticed that the waters teemed more and more with fish, some beautiful, some ugly and fear-inspiring, and some such monsters that it made one shudder to look at them, even through the thick glass of the bullseye windows. Yeah, wow, they are really moving, yeah. Generally speaking, from the Bahamas, I wouldn't head due east, I'd head southeast, because you've got a long way to go before you get down to South America from the Bahamas. Yes, but you do need to be heading outwards. Sorry, outwards on the map. Oh, goodness me. Some of the geography, I'm guessing they're just assuming that the boys are going to either be interested and find out and go, they got it wrong in the book, or it's just going to wash over their heads. So diving suits. They should be working in diving suits, in deep water suits, enough on a regular basis that they know what to do when they're working together underwater to do any task. Not test them while they're on their way to the location. Once. They were going to do some more tests. No, they only told us that they tested it once, and then they went in, and then they carried on travelling. So how are they going to know? Do you know how hard it is to tie a rope around something to drag it towards the vessel that you want to take it to, or to lift it up to a boat that's on the surface and have the item not fall out of the rope? If the object is something that is roundish. Do you know how hard it is underwater to tie a rope around that and to have it hold that and have the thing not fall out of that loop that you put around it? You need to practice. And it doesn't, you're doing the same mechanics of tying knots, but it's different when you're underwater, especially if you're in a dive suit, because you will have integral gloves. Or you'll have waterproof cuffs, which I don't think that they have, where it seals around the wrists and you've got bare hands. But being underwater, because of the thickness of water, the viscosity of water compared with being in the air, means that everything you do takes longer to do. And it feels different. So things that you take for granted, you know how to do it, how to tie a reef knot. When you're underwater and you're trying to tie a reef knot, it feels different. So you actually have to think about what you're doing instead of doing it without thinking. So there's lots of things like this where if they were really doing this, if this was based off real life stuff, the story would have extra detail in, or it would reference it without going into explanations. They spent time learning how to use the dive suits underwater. What are they doing about the fact that they are supposedly, according to the story, breathing oxygen, but they're at quite a depth? Because when you're down over a mile deep or even half a mile deep, that's a lot of the pressure of the atmosphere on top of the water on top of you, which concentrates the oxygen. And it's oxygen, when it's squished together, concentrated under that pressure, that makes it toxic. So people who are working as deep sea divers in the Navy and stuff like that, they have a completely different gas mixture. It's not this, you can't just take normal air and compress it into tanks and then breathe it when you're underwater if you're working at depth or for a long period of time, because you get oxygen toxicity. It can kill you. And so they have a mix of gases that cause less problems when you're down at greater depth. You can't just pump air in and squish it down nice and tight and feed it to them. And you can't take pure oxygen and feed it to them, because it is, as I say, toxic. On top of that, you also have, if you come up too quickly because you've been breathing air or oxygen down at a deeper depth, as you come up to surface level, if you have been breathing normal air, normal style air where it has nitrogen in it, you have to go, you can start coming up fast and then you have to slow down, and the deeper you were, the longer you have to wait at different stages, because what you have been breathing gets squished so small it actually passes into your blood vessels. As you come up to a higher level, that gas expands and it sits in certain places in your blood vessels, like at your joints where you bend your elbows and stuff like that, and you get a diving complication called the bends, like you're bent. The bends, and it's where you get a concentration of nitrogen in your blood at your joints, and it's incredibly painful and it can kill you. So when you are diving and you've been working at depth, you come up and then you slow down and then you pause at certain depths so that you can get that nitrogen out of your blood supply as you're keeping on breathing, and it's evacuating from your blood supply. Then you can go up a bit further. The deeper you are, the more stops you have to do and the longer you have to stop. Otherwise, you have to go into a decompression chamber, so they put you back to deep pressure and then gradually reduce the pressure off you so that you get a chance to get that out of your system. It is incredibly painful. It kills people and they are screaming in the process. This is why I'm saying, yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff they're not telling us here in this story. And they are assuming that pre-teen boys and early teen boys don't have enough scientific understanding to need to know this. Plus also, back in the day, they probably didn't know then either. People found out about the bends through bad experiences, literally. Let's just go back to these comments, because there was some stuff I missed a bit earlier on too. Oxygen's for losers, we got past that. Ocean Gate, 20,000 leagues under the sea, and there was a Might be a shaped metal thing. Oh, that was the reference to the bullseye. I just want to tell you that your turn indicator's on. Do you have any diagrams of the subs? Sure, why not? They might be knowledgeable about their plot armor. Goriki had replied to Colesaw's questions about diagrams. Heck no, then people could point out how much it doesn't work out. Maybe a conceptual outside design they can call artist's impression. Yeah. Looking through the bit where it talks about Keys, glorified sandbar. I hope Wayward Bard's getting on okay with getting home. Nets are great. About once his luck, yeah. Hey, we're about to get into a gunfight. Let's try on the experimental body armor we haven't even looked at until now. Nets are great. It's very interesting how high saturation of divers. Yes, that's one of the terminologies used for them. So the Navy uses them, but also engineering for structures that go deep that have foundations deep underwater use deep water divers or saturation divers, where they are actually some of them will actually have a temporary residence at a certain depth where they will actually go down to that level, that residence level, and it is self-contained and it's got air that is breathable for the depth that they're at, so there's less transition from there to their workspace. And then they will be in dive suits and they will go to wherever it is they work. They do underwater welding, all sorts of things. They use excavation systems, all sorts of stuff. It's amazing what they do down at big, deep depths. Anyway, so they will then, when they've finished for the day, they'll go back to their accommodation and they'll still be breathing at the level that they're at. And their body can cope with it because it's actually been set up with a lot more scientific understanding than back in the day. And then they will finish their sequence of however many days or hours that they're down at that, and then they will be brought up, and when you're working in that situation, they actually have pods that they take them down and up in, rather than, it's not like scuba diving. And they'll bring them up, but they'll stage how fast they bring them up so that whatever gases that they're breathing down at that level, which will have oxygen in it, but not as dominantly so as what we do at sea level, so that they get the exchange of gases between their blood and their lungs to get them to a level where it's back to more normal and they don't have any issues with the bends and stuff like that. There's lots of things. What about my asthma inhaler? I can scuba with that, right? You definitely need to talk to a dive doctor about that sort of thing. It can be really risky. They have little quarters that they stay down in. Yeah. Hi, Jolter. Great to have you here. High pressure conversation. Yeah. Talking about this because they've just been out of the submarine and they've been doing some stuff. And I was having a bit of a rant about it mid-story, but decided in a chapter break that some of the extra stuff that I knew from reading when I was growing up, but also doing scuba diving and things like that, was probably relevant to know. Just talking about what we understand now compared with what the authors understood back in the time that this book is set. So this was written in 1910 or just before that, so they didn't have the same level of scientific knowledge of working at depth as what they do now. Yeah, or they turn into goo. Joltier says that Goriki is a brilliant box of pizza. Yummy, more food. It's funny watching fish and sharks nosing around them in their work. Yeah, it is. It's quite interesting watching. Sharks are attracted to the wires, electrical fields. It's something which it's, in some ways, it's quite mind-blowing. When you are watching, or you personally go to a place that normally you don't have people. So, long ramble. Jacques Cousteau, who invented what we know of now as scuba diving, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. That's what it stands for. He was an early developer of it, and they had the system where you had a dual pipe, the corrugated dual pipes that went to the tanks on your back, and it had a rebreather as part of one of their early systems, where what you breathe out goes back in and it goes through a processor so that it takes out the extra carbon dioxide from your breath so that you have less of that available, because when you breathe out, there's still a lot of oxygen in what you breathe out. And so you can still keep using that oxygen. It gets mixed back in with the rest of what you've got. So when they were first diving underwater, actually even snorkeling, because they were making the early masks and things like this, and they would go underwater when they got transition from spearfishing, which is free diving where you don't have air on you, to using scuba or equivalent. And they go underwater and they would take things like spear guns and stuff to shoot fish. And initially when they were first underwater, because they realized that the fish actually had adapted to what people would do underwater. So if you hold your breath and go underwater and shoot at a fish, the fish actually knows how capable you are because they've seen it happen over and over and over again. So when people first started doing it, first having a mask on so they could see the fish well enough to go after them, the fish would actually originally come right up to them. And then when the people would start to try and grab them, the fish would, over time, not come within grabbing distance. And then when people started using spear guns or the Hawaiian slings type of spear gun, which is where you actually have a rubbery band and just the spear itself instead of a whole contraption with a trigger, and then you just let it go and it fires at it, the fish would actually start to recognize how close those things worked. So, oh, I have to be further away than where someone can grab me, otherwise I'm still going to get caught by that sticky thing. And so the fish, these divers were recognizing that the fish were coming less and less close because they were learning what their safe distances were. So when you're in an area where lots of people do diving and snorkeling and stuff like this, fish tend to stay at a bit more of a distance from people. If you are diving where people don't normally go, the fish will come right up to you because they want to know what's going on, just like cows do. If you're in a farming area and there are cows and calves and steers and heifers and all this sort of stuff in the paddocks, and bulls even in paddocks, and you're walking along and they haven't seen anyone walking for a while, most of the time they see people in cars. If you're walking alongside the fence, they will come over to see you, to see what you're doing, because they are inquisitive. They want to know what's going on. They're actively judging you, says Coleslaw. Yeah, they are. It's quite funny. But most of the animal world has a level of curiosity, because it's from curiosity that you observe. And when you observe, you then learn and you can make decisions about what is safe and what to avoid. Even fish do it. So it's really intriguing seeing how fish will be right up close when it's somewhere that they know they're safe, or when it's somewhere where they haven't had that sort of exposure to being chased, caught, speared, all that sort of stuff. Just because it's a different experience for them, just like it's a different experience for people. So it can be quite interesting. Yeah, harassed. Yeah, being harassed indeed. So there's just so many things that are different underwater, especially if you go somewhere that people usually aren't. That sort of water space. I'm going to have a drink. I know you guys have got an ad at the moment, but we'll get into the next chapter. So we've had 2 chapters. We're up to chapter 15, At the Tropical Island. It was on the evening of the 4th day later, 4th day after they got to the Bahamas, I think, not 4th day after they left New Jersey. Time is in here. That Captain Weston, who was steering the craft, suddenly called out, "Land ho! Where away?" inquired Tom quickly, for he had read that this was the proper response to make. Where away? "Dead ahead," answered the sailor with a smile. because he's recognised Tom's efforts. Shall we make for it, if I may be allowed the question? What land is it likely to be? Mr. Swift wanted to know. Oh, some small tropical island, replied the seafaring man. It isn't down on the charts. Probably it's too small to note. Now, the charts that they're using will not be highly detailed, and probably they're in a part of Southern Caribbean, Northern South America, that doesn't have quite such density of mapping or charting done back in the day. Because they were still making maps. They still do make them now. And so it may not be something that is on a chart. I know somebody who got something put onto a chart because they found it with the bottom of their boat in a harbour. There was a harbour usually has a little bit of silty, muddy stuff over whatever's underneath, whether it's sand or rock or whatever. And this harbour's been in use for quite a long time, but there was a particular angle from the entrance to the harbour up towards somewhere else that obviously people didn't usually go through, or if they did, they weren't usually in a boat that took as much depth. It was an area where there used to be a big timber mill, and so they would have sailing ships coming in to get timber to take to other places to use it for making things. But the entrance of the harbour was way down there, and the timber mill was over this way, so the sailing ships would come up this direction instead of up this direction. And so it was on the way up there to another location, because most people who would go further up there back in the old days would come in the harbour up to the timber mill and then across the harbour. So they'd first go and then they'd go back the same way. And this guy was actually with this larger replica kind of sailing ship, was coming straight up because the timber mill's not in use anymore. And he found a bump under the water, bumped into it, didn't do any damage, but found it, and they marked it on their charts. And so I don't know if it's officially on the charts yet, but it's definitely marked on their charts, and anyone else who goes into that area that knows anyone to do with that organisation and those boats has it marked on their charts, even if they've manually put it on there. But in the old days, that's how a lot of things were found and put onto charts. You bump into it, or you nearly bump into it, and then you note it down and tell everybody. Anyway, so yeah, small tropical island. It isn't on the charts. Probably it's too small to note. I should say it was a coral island, but we may be able to find a spring of fresh water there and some fruit. Coral islands don't have springs. Generally, look up your geography. Then we'll land there, decided the inventor, and we can use some fresh water, though our distilling and ice apparatus does very well. And also, common assumption, there's lots of yummy fruit on tropical islands. There usually is if people have planted the trees for it. They don't naturally occur in lots of places. Yeah. People assume coconuts through the Pacific. They're only in the Pacific because coconuts were taken to the Pacific. And now they grow everywhere. So there's a lot of things like that around the world. You go to a tropical island and you want fresh fruit, and you'll be surprised at how narrow the range of what is available to you. Because even though it might be hot all year round, they still have seasons. They usually have a wet season and a dry season. Mangoes in South Pacific are not available until at least November because of when it is wet and when it is dry. They're not available all year round. They're not growing fresh on the trees all year round. Apples, no, because it's too hot for apples, and they don't grow there naturally anyway. You might be able to get some tiny ones. You'd probably do better if you actually planted crabapple trees because the fruit would grow quicker, and so therefore you'd actually still get fruit, but they're really small anyway. So the apples that I have seen grown up in the islands looked like crab apples, but they were not. They were actually miniature versions of ones that we have in more temperate climes because the apple trees don't cope with the heat there. It's just the way it is. The more you travel and spend time somewhere in the local settings, interacting with local people and shops and gardens and talking with people and seeing how people actually live, the more you actually start to get a handle on this, not to understand and be an expert, but to understand that it's different to what you previously thought. It's good. It's very good for you to do that sort of traveling. So their water makers doing very well. They made the island just at dusk and anchored in a little lagoon where there was a good depth of water. Now for sure, cried Tom, as the submarine swung around on the chain. So they're just anchoring it like you would a normal boat. It looks like a fine place. I hope there are coconuts and oranges there. Can I get out the electric launch, Dad? Yes, you may, and we'll all go ashore. It will do us good to stretch our legs a bit. Carried in a sort of pocket on the deck of the submarine was a small electric boat, capable of holding 6. It could be slid from the pocket or depression into the water without the use of davits, and with Mr. Sharp to aid him, Tom soon had the little craft afloat. I think their reference to not needing davits is so that when the submarine's underwater, you haven't got things poking up, getting tugged by the water, is the author's thoughts. Have they said anything about how they get their fresh water? Just that they've got a desalinator. They haven't said anything about our distilling and ice apparatus, which is a desalinator of some sort, plus ice maker. They haven't given us details. They don't. They just tell us some things, and some of them are plausible, and most of them aren't.
That's often the way of science fiction.
Yeah, it's often the way of science fiction. It's like
how it's been done.
Yeah, it does depend on how it's been done. Depends on if it's hard science fiction or soft. Soft is about human stories, hard is about the science, generally speaking. Tom soon had the little craft afloat. The batteries were already charged, and just as the sun was going down, the gold seekers entered the launch and were soon on shore. They found a good spring of water close at hand, and Tom's wish regarding the coconuts was realised, though there were no oranges. Coconuts, in the old days, this is how they spelled it, Cocoanuts. Doesn't have the A in it anymore, coconut. So it looks a little bit weird when you first see it. The lad took several of the delicious nuts and, breaking them open, poured the milk into a collapsible cup he carried, drinking it eagerly. Why didn't he drink it from the shell? Coconut, split it open, 2 cups. No, got to pour it in. It's actually more sterile as you open it than it is when you pour it into something else, which has natural cup. Yeah, definitely. Obviously not something that this author has experienced. The others followed his example and pronounced it the best beverage they had tasted in a long time. The island was a typical tropical one, not very large, and it did not appear to have been often visited by man. There were no animals to be seen, but myriads of birds flew here and there amid the trees. A natural cup, that's what Ariel said. She's got shells, not coconuts. The trailing vines and streamers of moss. I haven't seen streamers of moss anywhere in the tropics. I think they're talking about stuff like Spanish moss, which, I don't know, maybe it's on the east coast of South America, because supposedly Spanish moss is common in Florida, which is tropical. I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me. Excuse me. I breathed wrong. Let's spend a day here tomorrow and explore it, proposed Tom, and his father nodded an assent. They went back to the submarine as night was beginning to gather, and in the cabin after supper talked over the happenings of their trip so far. Now, they went ashore after sunset. Just a moment. Where is it? They said something about going ashore after sunset, and then it talks about after dark. They went back to the boat after dark. Well, in the tropics, they're very close together. You don't get a long twilight. Let's get to where we were. They went back to the submarine as night was beginning to gather, and in the cabin after supper talked over the happenings of their trip so far. "Do you think we'll have any trouble getting the gold out of the wrecked vessel?" asked Tom of Captain Weston after a pause. "Surely you should be asking, do you think we're going to have any trouble actually finding the vessel? We can know roughly where it's meant to be." But yeah. Also, if you have, not submarine, if you have a boat and you anchor it at the place, the coordinates that they tell you, if you can get the coordinates accurate enough to get right above it, you anchor it. Now, when you're on a boat, the line just doesn't go straight down with the anchor right on the end, because that's not going to hold the boat. When you're on a boat, you have the line comes from the bow of the boat down at an angle, at quite a shallow angle. And you can have chain on near the bottom so that if there's coral there, it doesn't get broken. You can have chain all the way, but that makes it very, very heavy in the front of your boat. Not safe. It can keep making when you're traveling and you've got the anchor pulled in, it can keep making the bow of the boat want to bury itself. Dangerous. Anyway, so you can have the line that goes down to the anchor, but it comes down at an angle to where the anchor is, because you need to have the anchor hooked into the sand or under a rock, and then you have a line that comes along that sits on the bottom. A certain amount of change, certain amount of weight there before it goes up to the boat. Sorry, up to the boat. Anchor, boat. The shorter that is, the more likely it is that the anchor will pull out of the ground that's underwater. So the position that you put the anchor down in is not where your boat is. So if you are on your boat and it's deep water, you're going to have a very, very long line between the ground under the water up to the boat at that angle. So if the anchor went down right on those coordinates, if you are able to get it that accurate, and then you are up on the boat, and you go over the side to go down and have a look, you're not going to be over your anchor. You're going to be a long way from it because of how deep it is, and that angle thing that I talked about. And then if the wind changes direction, the anchor stays in the same place and the boat goes from being way over there to way over somewhere else. And so you're going to have to look in a different direction. And it's not that clear underwater. The further down you get, the less light you have and the less colour you have. Colour fades out as you go down. The last colour you lose is the blues. Gets to the point where it's very monochromatic the deeper you go, unless you have your own light with you. And that light will not travel very far. So it actually gets harder and harder to see where something is when you're looking underwater for something. So this is why every time they say, "Oh, is it going to be how is it going to be for doing this?" And they still have not addressed how they find the wreck. You can have a set of coordinates for where it is, but it has to be super accurate for you to actually find it, especially if it's really deep. That's what Ariel said, under the sea. Yeah. You go and sing away to yourself there, Goriki. Let's carry on with this. Do you think we'll have any trouble getting the gold out of the wreck? I'm just trying to paint pictures so you guys can see what they're actually up against, okay, in real life. You watch any of the diving, the lightweight diving movies, and you look at the light that's coming down from the surface. If they've actually filmed it in the sea, you'll recognize that you're starting to lose color. But also when it's still very bright and colorful, even if you've got ripples of light and dark from the sun being affected by the surface of the water, if you've had anything to do with being underwater, you'll look at that and you'll go, they're telling us that this is at 60 feet. This is not. This is at 10 or 15 feet. The surface is only just above the top of those divers if they reach up. It is not as deep as they're telling us, just because it feels wrong. It's really hard to fake it when you're actually doing it with real water. Anyway, let's carry on. Sorry. It might be better with AI now, but it didn't used to be. visibility is not good underwater anyway, because you've got all the little creatures as well as their equivalent of dust, and it does affect it. It's like being in a misty day and it's raining here. Hang on, I just need to check to make sure the wind hasn't turned around blowing the rain in. It's okay. It's still blowing the right way for it to not come in. Carrying on. Do you have any trouble? It's hard to say. I couldn't learn just how the wreck lays, whether it's on a sandy or a rocky bottom. Well, there's the bingo space for Jev leaves. And I'm back. I couldn't learn just how the wreck lays, how it's lying on the ground underwater, on the bottom, whether it's on a sandy or a rocky bottom. If the latter, it won't be so hard, but if the sand has worked in and partly covered it, we'll have some difficulties, if I may be permitted to say so. Also, how flat is the bottom? Yeah. However, don't borrow trouble. We're not there yet, though at the rate we're travelling, it won't be long before we arrive. No watch was set that night, as it was not considered necessary. Oh dear. Tom was the first to arise in the morning, and he went out on deck for a breath of fresh air before breakfast. He looked off at the beautiful little island, and as his eye took in all of the little lagoon where the submarine was anchored, he uttered a startled cry. And well he might, for not 100 yards away and nearer to the island than the Advance floated another craft. Another craft, almost similar in shape and size to the one built by the Swifts. Tom rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not seeing double. No, there could be no mistake about it. There was another submarine at the tropical island. As he looked, someone emerged from the conning tower of the second craft. The figure seemed strangely familiar. Bless my pantaloons, we've been burgled. Yeah, it certainly feels like that. Tom knew in a moment who it was. Addison Berg. The agent saw the lad too, and taking off his cap and making a mocking bow, he called out, "Good morning, have you got the gold yet?" Tom did not know what to answer. Seeing the other submarine, at an island where he had supposed that they would not be disturbed, was disconcerting enough, but to be greeted by Berg was altogether too much. Well, Berg probably knew exactly when they left, because that other boat that was spying on them, that they sort of disappeared underwater and surprised the guy, probably was a plant by Berg to tell him when they left. A little bit not good doing a show-off move like that. His fears that the rival boat builders would follow had not been without foundation. "Rather surprised to see us, aren't you?" went on Mr. Berg, smiling. "Rather," admitted Tom, choking over the word. "Thought you'd be," continued Berg. "We didn't expect to meet you so soon, but we're glad we did. I don't altogether like hunting for sunken treasure with such indefinite directions as I have." "You are going to," stammered Tom, and then he concluded it would be best not to say anything. "Yes, Tom, please learn from this." But his talk had been heard inside the submarine. His father came to the foot of the conning tower stairway. "To whom are you speaking, Tom?" he asked. "They're here, Dad," was the youth's answer. "Here? Who are here?" "Berg and his employers. They've followed us, Dad." Chapter 16. We'll race you for it. I had lunch just before we started, so that's why I'm not eating lots of things today. And it was warmed up rice risotto. No, not risotto. A person whose name is written O-T-T-O, his name is not Otto, it's Otto in New Zealand. We'll race you for it. Chapter 16. Mr. Swift hurried up on deck. He was accompanied by Captain Weston. At the sight of Tom's father, Mr. Berg, who'd been joined by 2 other men, called out, "You see, we also concluded to give up the trial for the government prize, Mr. Swift. We decided there was more money in something else. But we still will have a good chance to try the merits of our respective boats." We hurried and got ours fitted up almost as soon as you did yours, and I think we have the better craft. I don't care to enter into any competition with you, said Mr. Swift coldly. Ah, but I'm afraid you'll have to, whether you want to or not, was the insolent reply. What's that? You mean to force this matter upon me? I'm afraid I'll have to, my employers and I, that is. You see, we managed to pick up your trail after you left the Jersey coast, having an idea where you were bound, and we don't intend to lose you now. Do you think they also tested it mid-journey or beforehand? Good question! And did they actually test it? Yeah, are they using the same sort of scientific method as Tom and his dad? Do you mean to follow us? Asked Captain Weston softly. Well, you can put it that way if you like, answered one of the two men with Mr. Berg. Apparently this is the baddie's voice, by the way. Whichever baddie it is, it doesn't matter. I forbid it, cried Mr. Swift. Mummy! I forbid it. You have no right to sneak after me. Are we trying to get the sympathy of the preteen readers? I guess the ocean is free, continued the rascally agent. Rascally, now there's a word. Yeah, that was not me picking my nose. I was adjusting my nose stud so it doesn't the inside of it doesn't shine at you and look really weird. And also it gets itchy sometimes. Why do you persist in keeping after us? Inquired the aged inventor, thinking it well to ascertain, if possible, just how much the men knew. Because we're after that treasure as well as you, was the bold reply. You have no exclusive right to it. The sunken ship is awaiting the first comer, and whoever gets there first can take the gold from the wreck. We intend to be there first, but we'll be fair with you. Fair? What do you mean? Asked Tom. This, we'll race you for it. The first one to arrive will have the right to search the wreck for the gold bullion. Is that fair? Do you agree to it? We agree to nothing with you, interrupted Captain Weston, his usual diffident manner all gone. I happen to be in partial command of this craft, and I warn you that if I find you interfering with us, it won't be healthy for you. I'm not fond of fighting, but when I begin, I don't like to stop. And he smiled grimly. You'd better not follow us. We'll do as we please, shouted the third member of the trio on deck of the other boat. Yes, they've all got the same voice. Which, as Tom could see, was named the Wonder. We intend to get that gold if we can. And to make it more fair, if you find it first, we'll tie you up and steal it anyway. Yes. And remind me to tell you guys about treasure. We'll do as we please. Oh, no, we've got all that. We intend to get that gold if we can. All right, I've warned you, went on the sailor, and then motioning to Tom and his father to follow, he went below. Well, what's to be done? Asked Mr. Swift, when they were seated in the living room and had informed the others of the presence of the rival submarine. I'm pretty sure the others should have heard. The only thing I can see to do is sneak away unobserved to go as deep as possible and make all haste for the wreck, advised the captain. They will depend on us, for they have evidently no chart of the wreck, though of course the general location of it may be known to them from reading the papers. I hoped I had thrown them off the track by the false chart I dropped, but it seems they are too smart for us. Have they a right to follow? Asked Tom. Legally, but not morally. Good thing they installed torpedoes they haven't tested, says Coulson. Yeah. I know. Legally, but not morally. We can't prevent them, I'm afraid. The only thing to do is to get there ahead of them. It will be a race for the sunken treasure, and we must get there first. What do you propose doing, Captain? Asked Mr. Damon. Bless my shirt studs, but can't we pull their ship up on the island and leave it there? I'm afraid such high-handed proceedings would hardly answer, replied Mr. Swift, apart from being illegal, because you're tampering with someone else's boat. No, as Captain Weston says, we must get there ahead of them. What do you think will be the best scheme, Captain? Sorry, itchy. Now I am itchy. I don't know why. Well, there's no need for us to forego our plan to get fresh water. Suppose we go to the island, that is, some of us leaving a guard on board here. We'll fill our tanks with fresh water, and at night we'll sink quietly below the surface and speed away. As if they haven't thought of that. They all voted that an excellent idea, and little time was lost in putting that into operation, getting close to the chapter to switch words. Thank you for that, Goriki. Little time was lost putting it into operation. All the remainder of that day, not a sign of life was visible about the Wonder. She lay inert on the surface of the lagoon, not far away from the Advance. But though no one showed himself on the deck, Tom and his friends had no doubt but that their enemies were closely watching them. Well, they've probably got portholes, and so they're looking out them, the bullseyes, watching that way. Have we not looked out our windows to see if they've got divers down, keeping an eye on which way we're moving? As dusk settled down over the tropical sea, and as the shadows of the trees on the little island lengthened, those on board the Advance closed the conning tower. No lights were turned on, as they did not want their movements to be seen, but Tom, his father, and Mr. Sharp took their positions near the various machines and apparatus, ready to open the tanks and let the submarine sink to the bottom as soon as it was possible to do this unobserved. "Luckily there's no moon," remarked Captain Weston as he took his place beside Tom. "Once below the surface we can defy them to find us. It is odd how they traced us, but I suppose that steamer gave them the clue." Maybe they've got a tracking device, an early tracking device. Maybe they've got some machine on their vessel that actually picks up the direction that the electromagnetism that they use for propulsion, an electrical signal from it. It rapidly grew dark, as it always does in the tropics. Yea, we have acknowledged that. When a cautious observation from the conning tower did not disclose the outlines of the other boat, those aboard the Advance rightly concluded that their rivals were unable to see them. "Send her down, Tom," called his father. Maybe they learned to talk to sea life. "Send her down, Tom," called his father, and with a hiss the water entered the tanks. The submarine quickly sank below the surface, aided by the deflecting rudder. But alas for the hopes of the gold seekers! No sooner was she completely submerged with the engine started so as to send her out of the lagoon into the open sea than the waters all about were made brilliant by the phosphorescent phenomenon. In southern waters this frequently occurs. Millions of tiny creatures, which, it is said, swarm in the warm currents, give an appearance of fire in the ocean, and any object moving through it can plainly be seen. It was so with the Advance. The motion she made in shooting forward and the undulations caused by her submersion seemed to start into activity the dormant phosphorus, and the submarine was afloat in a sea of fire. "Quick!" cried Tom. "Speed her up. Maybe we can get out of this patch of water before they see us." But it was too late. Krill, says Goldslaw. Yeah. You don't see phosphorescence when it's full moon because it's a really low light level, but it's definitely noticeable. Tom Swift and his telepathic squid. Excellent. I like that one. Oh, but it really is. It's quite marvellous. Having watched dolphins or porpoises swimming alongside a boat and diving in and out of the water and rushing ahead and then letting themselves just drift back slightly to be near the bow wave of the boat. At night, when there's no moon, you see them because of the shape of the phosphorescence around them. It's really amazing. But yeah, in this sort of situation, it doesn't help you to be able to get away privately. It's not always apparent, and it's not just to do with the light levels like from moon and stuff like that. It's certain weather conditions mean that you have more phosphorescence than others. So yeah, it's all just some of the wonders of the sea. But it was too late. Above them they could hear the electric siren of the Wonder as it was blown to let them know that their escape had been noticed. A moment later the water, which acted as a sort of sounding board or telephone, brought to the ears of Tom Swift and his friends the noise of the engines of the other craft in operation. She was coming after them. The race for the possession of the $300,000 in gold was already underway. Fate seemed against those on board the Advance. Chapter 17, The Race. It's very, very close to the amount of time we've got. Do we need to change the words at this point or not, Goriki? Or is that the next chapter? I'm wondering if I need to change words right now. Or if I need to. Hi, Boyd. Great to have you here. And thank you for your video. We had it today for the tips. It was lovely. He's probably checking out. Good. He's probably checking out what somebody else is doing, or checking what I've just asked him. I'm going to. Are you in second half of chapters? I'm just about to start chapter 17 called The Race. I don't know. And Jilter is affirming Void Android. Void Android is a wondrous puppy. That sounds lovely. So I'm going to carry on reading. And God, he can tell me when he needs to tell me. If he has sorted that out. Sorry, I just had a bit of hair that was bothering me. It was caught underneath something and I could feel it. Feel things too easily. It's either 17 or 18 if I recall. Okay, well, we'll see how we go. Chapter 17, The Race, because this is the last chapter I'm reading before we finish. And I need to give you a little of a hype up, remember, about Goriki's Modiversary. And also our commutations and, not Modiversary, his streamiversary and my anniversary. They're all around the same time. Chapter 17, The Race, directed by Captain Weston, who glanced at the compass and told him which way to steer to clear the outer coral reef. Tom sent the submarine ahead, signalling for full speed to the engine room, where his father and Mr. Sharp were. The big dynamos purred like great cats as they sent the electrical energy into the forward and aft plates, pulling and pushing the Advance forward. On and on she rushed underwater, but ever as she shot ahead, the disturbance in the phosphorescent water showed her position plainly. She would be easy to follow. "Can't you get any more speed out of her?" asked the captain of the lad. "Yes," was the quick reply. "By using the auxiliary screws, I think we can. I'll try it. Problem is that then you become a lot more audible." He signalled for the propellers forward and aft to be put in operation, and the motor moving the twin screws was turned on. At once there was a perceptible increase to the speed of the Advance. That actually only works if the auxiliary motor could push it faster. Otherwise it's going to slow it down. Because it's to do with the friction between the water and the surface that's being used to push it. "Are we leaving them behind?" asked Tom anxiously as he glanced at the speed gauge and noted that the submarine was now about 500 feet below the surface. They must be outside the reef by now. 500 feet. "Hard to tell," replied the captain. "You'd have to take an observation to make sure." "I'll do it," cried the youth. "You steer, please, and I'll go to the conning tower. I can look forward and aft there as well as straight up. Maybe I can see the Wonder." Springing up the circular ladder leading into the tower, Tom glanced through the windows all about the small pilot house. He saw a curious sight. It was as if the submarine was in a sea of yellowish liquid fire. No, it's blue-green. She was immersed in water which glowed with the flames that contained no heat. So light was it, in fact, that there was no need for the incandescents in the tower. The young inventor could have seen to read a paper by the illumination of the phosphorescence, actually, not phosphorus, because that's a chemical. But he had something else to do than observe this phenomenon. He wanted to see if he could catch sight of the rival submarine. Technically, if there's that much light around him, he won't be able to see through it to see where they are. At first he could make out nothing save the swirl and boiling of the sea caused by the progress of the Advance through it. But suddenly, as he looked up, he was aware of some great black body, a little to the rear and about 10 feet above his craft. "A shark!" he exclaimed aloud. "An immense one, too." But the closer he looked, the less it seemed like a shark. The position of the black object changed. It appeared to settle down, to be approaching the top of the conning tower. Then, with a suddenness that unnerved him for the time being, Tom recognised what it was. It was the underside of a ship. He could see the plates riveted together, and then, as he noted the rounded cylindrical shape, he knew that it was a submarine. Well, at 500 feet depth it should be, not a ship. "Sorry." You forget what you've already told us, author. He knew it was a submarine. It was the Wonder. She was close at hand and was creeping up on the Advance. But what was more dangerous, she seemed to be slowly settling in the water. Another moment and her great screws might crash into the conning tower of the Swift's boat and shave it off. I thought she was behind you. The screws are on the back, not on the front. That means they are not going to hit the conning tower. I'm sorry. And shave it off. Then the water would rush in, drowning the treasure seekers like rats in a trap. With a quick motion, Tom yanked over the lever that allowed more water to flow into the ballast tanks. The effect was at once apparent. The Advance shot down toward the bottom of the sea. Don't take it too far. At the same time, the young inventor signalled to Captain Weston to notify those in the engine room to put on a little more speed. The Advance fairly leapt ahead, and the lad, looking up through the bullseye in the roof of the conning tower, had the satisfaction of seeing the rival submarine left behind. The youth hurried down into the interior of the ship to tell what he had seen and explain the reasoning for opening the ballast tanks. Let's hope there's no rocks poking up from the seafloor in their direction. He found his father and Mr. Sharp somewhat excited over the unexpected manoeuvre of the craft. Indeed. So they're still following us. Oh, craft, by the way. We probably need to drink a few of these, because I think we've probably had this word a few times. So we'll drink half a dozen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now he's being called a youth, not a lad. Is this part of the changeover, Goriki? The youth hurried down into the interior of the ship, because I can't remember what the words were he gave me. I have to go back through my chat with him. And explained the reason for opening the ballast tanks. He found his father and Mr. Sharp somewhat excited over the unexpected manoeuvre of the craft. I've done that one. So they're still following us, murmured Mr. Swift. I don't see why we can't shake them off. It's on account of this luminous water, explained Captain Weston. Once we're clear of that, it will be easy, I think, to give them the slip. That is, if we can get out of their sight long enough. Of course, if they keep close after us, they can pick us up with their searchlight, for I suppose they carry one. Yes, admitted the aged inventor. They have as strong a one as we have. In fact, their ship is second only to this one in speed and power. I know, for Bentley and Eggert showed me some of the plans before they started it and asked my opinion. This was before I had the notion of building a submarine. So Bentley and Eggert probably think that he ripped the idea off them. Yep, it would be this one, 17. Oh, well, next stream. Thank you. Sorry about that, Goriki. This was before I had the notion of building a submarine. Yes, I'm afraid we'll have trouble getting away from them. I can't understand this phosphorescent glow keeping up so long, remarked Captain Weston. I've seen it in this locality several times, but it never covered such an extent of the ocean in my time. There must be changed conditions here now. For an hour or more the race was kept up, and the two submarines forged ahead through the glowing sea. The Wonder remained slightly above and to the rear of the other, the better to keep sight of her. And though the Advance was run to her limit of speed, her rival could not be shaken off. Clearly the Wonder was a speedy craft. It's too bad that we've got to fight them as well as run the risk of lots of other troubles which are always present when sailing underwater. Which are always present. Like, we've done lots of this, observed Mr. Damon, who wandered about the submarine like the nervous person he was. Bless my shirt studs, can't we blow them up or cripple them in some way? They have no right to go after our treasure. Remind me about treasure again at the end, as Goriki's already done the reminder command. Well, I guess they've got as much right as we have, declared Tom. It goes to whoever reaches the wreck first. But what I don't like is their mean, sneaking way of doing it. If they went off on their own hook and looked for it, I wouldn't say a word, but they expect us to lead them to the wreck, and then they'll rob us if they can. That's not fair. Shirt studs reused penalty, Mr. Darby. Indeed it isn't, agreed Captain Weston. If I may be allowed the expression, we ought to find some way of stopping them. But if I'm not mistaken, he added quickly, looking from one of the port's bull's eyes, the phosphorescent glow is lessening. I believe we're running beyond that part of the ocean. Yeah, as Q said, krill. There's lots of the little microorganisms in the water, and often they will sort of It'll be a great big cloud of them in a certain area. You can't see them with the naked eye, but they're there. When they get disturbed, they set off this phosphorescent glow, but you can move out of that area into another area where they aren't, which is what they're expecting to do, and it's now happening. There was no doubt of it. The glow was growing less and less, and 10 minutes later, the Advance was speeding along through a sea as black as night. Then, to avoid running into some wreck, it was necessary to turn on the searchlight, which they will see. "Are they still after us?" asked Mr. Swift of his son as he emerged from the engine room. "The reality is, they don't need to be travelling just above the bottom. They can be quite a bit above it if they want to, as long as they're not being run into by the other one." "Are they still after us?" asked Mr. Swift of his son as he emerged from the engine room, where he'd gone to make some adjustments to the machinery with the hope of increasing the speed. "I'll go look," volunteered the lad. He climbed up into the conning tower again, and for a moment, as he gazed back into the black waters swirling all about, he hoped that they had lost the Wonder. But a moment later his heart sank as he caught sight through the liquid element. Trying too hard to not reuse words. As he caught sight through the liquid element, through the water, of the flickering gleams of another searchlight, the rays undulating through the sea. "Still following," murmured the young inventor. "They're not going to give up, but we must make 'em, that's all." He went down to report what he had seen, and a consultation was held. Captain Weston carefully studied the charts of that part of the ocean, and finding there was a great depth of water at hand, proposed a series of evolutions. "We can go up and down, shoot first to one side and then to the other," he explained. "We can even drop down to the bottom and rest there for a while. Perhaps in that way we can shake them off." They tried it. The Advance was sent up until her conning tower was out of the water, and then she was suddenly forced down until she was but a few feet from the bottom. She darted to the left, to the right, and even doubled and went back over the course she'd taken, but all to no purpose. The Wonder proved fully as speedy, and those in her seemed to know just how to handle the submarine, so that every evolution of the Advance was duplicated. Her rival could not be shaken off. "Waiter, I'll have a glass of your fine artisan liquid element." "So, like a martini?" "Yeah, I'd rather the martini, thanks." All night this was kept up, and when morning came, though only the clocks told it, for eternal night was below the surface, the rival gold seekers were still on the trail. "They won't give up," declared Mr. Swift hopelessly. "No, we've got to race them for it, just as Berg proposed," admitted Tom. "But if they want a straightaway race, we'll give it to 'em. Let's run her to the limit, Dad." "That's what we've been doing, Tom." "No, not exactly, for we've been submerged a little too much to get the best speed out of our craft. Let's go a little nearer the surface and give them the best race they'll ever have." Then the race began. And such a contest of speed it was, with her propellers working to the limit and every volt of electricity that was available forced into the forward and aft plates. The Advance surged through the water about 10 feet below the surface, but the Wonder kept after her, giving her knot for knot, and knot as a unit of speed. A nautical mile per hour is 1 knot. The course of the leading submarine was easy to trace now in the morning light, which penetrated 10 feet below. "No use," remarked Tom again, when after 2 hours the Wonder was still close behind them. "Our only chance is that they may have a breakdown, or run out of air, or something like that," added Captain Weston. "They are crowding us pretty close. I had no idea they could keep up this speed. If they don't look out," he went on as he looked from one of the aft observation windows, "they'll foul us," and his remarks were interrupted by a jar to the Advance. She seemed to shiver and careened to one side. Then came another bump. "Slow down," cried the captain, rushing toward the pilot-house. "What's the matter?" asked Tom, as he threw the engines and electrical machines out of gear. "Have we hit anything?" "No, something has hit us," cried the captain. "Their submarine has rammed us." "Rammed us?" repeated Mr. Swift. "Tom, run out the electrical cannon. They're trying to sink us. We'll have to fight them." "Electrical cannon." "Run out the stern electric gun and we'll make them wish they'd not followed us." And that's the end of the chapter. The next chapter is the electric gun. There was much excitement aboard the Advance. And Past Shelf Date has resubscribed 33 months in a row. Wow! Great to have you here. And we're just finishing. Sorry about that, Past Shelf Date. Local TTRPG just finished for the week. Just got here. Oh no! And I can't keep going because it's 5 minutes after 3 already. Oh my goodness. It was quite a nerve-wracking story today. And we've probably got more of that too, actually. So next time we're going to be having the chapter, The Electric Gun. Next time, before my next stream, we also have Goriki is going to be doing his modiversary. That's this one here. This is the information about it. Hang on. No. The link for his channel is there, Twitch TV Goriki, spelt the same way. You've got it here in the same way as it's in his name. He will be talking about moderating. He will be talking about moderating so that you understand what it is that moderators need to do and what things you can use in your own settings of your stream for as a streamer, or if you moderate for somebody else, you can encourage your streamer to do settings to actually minimize disruption from disruptive people and also chatbots. So he's got lots and lots of tips, and there's a lot of background information on how these things work. He has got some updated information, including info on lurk and when ads and how ads work with ad blockers and all that, or don't work with ad blockers and all that sort of stuff. And then towards the end of this time, he will be doing it, or to take a break, he'll be doing some of the old superhero movie TV episodes, which are lots of fun. They really are lots of fun. Yeah, looking fire indeed. So that is next Tuesday for most of you guys. It is this coming 2 days from now. 2 days from now. And you need to look at his schedule to find out what time that is in your time zone. Okay, because I can't convert that for you. My brain doesn't do that. Also, the day after, I will be streaming starting at my normal time, which will be partway through his stream time, unfortunately. And then the next one that happens after that is that you've got Alchemmutation stream is the day after that. It's his 5th anniversary as a streamer. So there you go. At some stage, I will be doing a very chill, quiet anniversary of my first stream, but it won't be doing anything exciting. I'm waiting for a little crafting project to arrive, and we'll do that. I will have a camera that's pointing down onto my desk, and I will be pulling apart the pieces from the little wooden sections, because it's all laser cut, and then assembling them and gluing them together. If it was plastic, it would be sprues, I think they're called, the little plastic frames that you break the pieces off from. I don't know what they call it when it's the wooden kit sets. And it's for a little model bookshop. Very definitely not to scale with anything in it, but that's okay. I can afford it. So I'm looking forward to doing that. It's not on the anniversary of my first stream because that was last week. And I didn't actually remember to check what the date was for it. So, yeah. But that won't be next stream. That will be either on Friday, my Friday, which is your Thursday, or next Monday, a week from today. I'm not quite sure. It just depends on when it arrives and if I need to get anything. Like I've seen someone actually assembling this particular kit, and they used some fine-nosed pliers. Fine-nosed tweezers, and I was looking at it thinking actually that might be a good idea, and I haven't got any, so I might see if I can pick some up between now and then. A great story to gab about so far. Yeah, it is. This story is full of so many things which are wonderful science fiction, but also sort of like, now we've got a little bit of hindsight, we can look back onto how things actually have developed. We're also going, yeah, I'm calling it's a load of bullshit on that. Definitely. And don't forget, you can get your very own loadable shirt from jev.nz if you really want to. You'll be able to, when I do the craft one, I will tell you guys beforehand that I'm going to be doing that. But don't forget, next stream time, an hour or two before I start, Gurihi will be doing his Modiversary. And it's officially the last big recognition of his Modiversary that he's doing. Unless there's some really super major changes that he gets onto real quick for the next time he has his Modiversary coming around. Jev.nz. How many V's? 3 V's. Same as in my name. So take my username here and put a dot between the last V and the N, the NZ. That's how you spell it. And that is its actual name. It's a domain. It's the website. Yeah, loadable. I don't actually have it as I have it as merch, as a command rather than a website, because it's actually just to the merch store. So if anyone does want a loadable shirt, I've got 3 designs at the moment. Each of the shirts is a different base shirt for the 3 different font designs. Actually, there's a 4th shirt. It's just Jev NZ with my Jev hands on it. But I am going to do some more. I'm going to do a V-neck one. It won't be quite as low as this. And I'm going to do some other alternate colours. How many bucks to toss for a signed book? I don't know yet, because I have to talk to somebody about how I can do that for sending it. Because, yeah, it's one thing to post things within New Zealand. It's quite another to post them overseas. And I have to find out about the price on that. But when I finally get that sorted, it hasn't been top on my mind, sorry. When I finally get that sorted, find out exactly what the possibilities are with that, it's not going to be open as a permanent long-term thing, because we actually physically get the books printed and then we post them out ourselves, the committee. I will probably have it set up so for a very limited window I can actually have it available. People can order it. I will sign them and send them to you, but it will have quite a surcharge to cover the overseas shipping, and the responsibility for customs and duty at everyone's own end is their very own. So because up until now we are not selling outside of New Zealand. Unfortunately, it's not going to be stocked anywhere because it's done as a private print run. What texture are the shirts? Soft. This particular one, which is the best purple I found, this one is soft. They're all cotton. All of the ones I've chosen are cotton. It's Canvas brand, Bella Canvas. Just reading what it says. 100% cotton. This is a 2XL because that's what I wear. It's a fairly soft cotton. It's not the super soft, but it is quite soft, and it's a normal fit. It's quite long for how big it is. Moved to New Zealand to get book. The other 2 are slightly heavier weight. There's the one that is the chunky font that has the 2-story A on it. That one is a fairly standard Gildan, which is heavyweight. So that's a little bit more heavy as a cotton, but they're all cotton ones, all of them are. But the purple, if you're really into purple, that's the best of the purples. But like I say, I'm doing this shirt with this font sort of thing. And I've got 3 colorways for each of them. There's a turquoise, there's a dark, a medium turquoise. The turquoises are harder to match than the purples are. Black, there's a purplish, and there's a turquoise-ish for each of them. They're all with white lettering, and they've all got twitchtv.jevnz on the sleeve, and I'm going to put that on the other sleeve too, just so that if somebody looks at you and says, oh, where can I get one of those, it won't have the link to the shop, it'll have the link to my channel, and then they can find the link to the shop, just because it's how merch works, doesn't it? Anyway, so there you go. We'll see you all next time. We'll catch up on more excitement with submarines. And I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere along the line we actually have some interference from a giant shark or a giant squid or a whale stepping in and disrupting things, because this is a Tom Swift story. There's always got to be something else that happens in the story. Bella and Canvas. I need to write on each of the descriptions which the base shirt is, because you can actually find out more about those. I thought that information was on the listings for them, but it's not. I have to put that in. It's on the listings I see for when I'm choosing which ones they are made from, but I will actually try and put those on there. So thank you very much for everybody being here. It's been lots of fun today, once again. Thankfully, once again, we do not have small creatures being chased by larger creatures that are trying to eat them like we do in the little kids' books about Mr. Wiggly the rabbit, Uncle Wiggly the rabbit. That is so strange. Anyway, thanks for being here, everybody. Don't forget, go to his Modiversary stream in 2 days' time. Go and look at his schedule, okay? Don't go and look at his schedule. Yeah, same size creature. Yeah, they are. And ratio-wise between people and submarines, maybe they're similar to Uncle Wiggly and those creatures that want to eat him. Anyway, we'll see you all